Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to be talking about your unpopular witchcraft opinions. Let's try and figure out whether they're actually unpopular or whether people simply don't talk about them enough. I really enjoy filming these unpopular opinion videos because the witchcraft community online has a tendency to become a little bit of an echo chamber. I like being able to sit down and read comments, and yes, I read every single one of your comments, so I really appreciate it when you do leave me some. And the comments under the unpopular opinion videos I've done in the past have been so interesting. It's really great seeing people having an open conversation about things that maybe aren't spoken about as frequently as they should be. So in today's video, I've saved just a few of the many comments that I got on both of those videos. Mainly the comments that were repeated the most or were the most liked, and those are the ones that we're going to be highlighting in today's video. Now, it's important to remember that everyone has an opinion, and not all opinions are going to align with everyone else's. If you don't agree with these statements, then that's fine, that's your opinion. Just make sure if you are going to post a comment on this video that you do so in a civil way. The goal here is to be able to have open communication. If people are getting irate with each other, it really tends to hinder conversation. So make sure that you keep it light, keep it friendly, so that we can keep the conversations flowing. And with that being said, let's get on to the first unpopular opinion. This unpopular opinion was actually repeated so many times on both videos, but this is the comment that I've chosen to focus on because it's the one that probably words it the best. My unpopular opinion is, everyone can learn about witchcraft, but not everyone can practice witchcraft successfully and actually manifest what they cast. As I feel some people are just not in tune or in touch with themselves, their own energy, or even the energy of the tools and the ingredients that they use. Not even with time or years of practice. I have a feeling that that opinion might divide some of you. For me personally, I can kind of agree with it. Now, I do believe that if you put enough time, effort, training, and dedication into something, you can definitely develop something. But whether that something is the fullest potential of what it could be is a different matter. I think that everyone has talents, and not everyone's talents are going to be in the same area. Some people may have an ear for music, they might have perfect pitch, they might be able to recreate a melody after only hearing it once, whereas other people might be tone deaf. Some people might be very artistic or might be good at public speaking. They might be able to move people with their words or create the most beautiful landscape paintings. But no matter how hard you put the effort in, some people just aren't good at painting and some people just aren't good at public speaking. I think the same may well apply within witchcraft. Some people definitely seem to have an easier time with it. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to not do it. It just means that you might need to work a little bit harder to get to the same level as someone else. In my opinion, everyone has the potential to be really good at witchcraft, but not everyone has the skills or the willingness to put in the time and effort to study it to their fullest potential. So this is one that I kind of agree with and I kind of don't. I have a feeling that a lot of people, if you struggle with one area of witchcraft or one area of magical practice, you might find that if you try something a different way or in a different style, you might have better success. So if you are one of these people who are maybe trying really hard to do a certain style of magic and you're finding it really difficult and you're just not getting it, it could be worth shifting your focus onto a slightly different practice with different techniques to see if you can have a better chance doing it that way. I really love using candle magic. I love using energy. I love working with spirits. Not everyone is going to feel that way. Some people might find dream magic, meditation, working with stones, working with elements. They might find that is their forte. So if you are struggling, try to adjust what you're doing to see if it can help you. But yeah, I do think that in some circumstances, people simply aren't cut out for doing it. Whether that's because they don't have the innate skill, or whether that's simply because they don't want to put the effort in to gain the additional knowledge that they need. The next unpopular opinion was actually a comment that had lots of unpopular opinions in it, but I'm just focusing on the one that I really wanted to talk about in this video, and that is, man-made materials such as fake crystals and plastic are not do not use things. Their properties might be different from natural materials, but it doesn't make them less powerful, and exactly this difference may make them more suitable for particular spells. This one I wholeheartedly agree with. Recently, we've been seeing more and more on social media of all kinds, whether that's TikTok or Instagram, Facebook or YouTube, the idea that man-made materials somehow are unusable within witchcraft. that crystals such as opalite or heat-treated amethyst shouldn't be touched with a barge pole, and that you're not allowed to use plastic in your magical practice whatsoever. And the reality of this is that it isn't all that realistic. Ultimately, materials like opalite are made from silica. Silica is a natural material that's found on Earth. So even though the crystal has been created through man-made processes, the materials actually come from the Earth in some way, shape, or form. And actually, most things that you can find come from the Earth originally. It's just that they likely go through dozens of processes to transform them into a different material. A lot of people, when I post opalite, when I post heat-treated amethyst on my YouTube videos, on Instagram, on anything else, will tell me that I shouldn't be using them because they don't give a magical response. And yet, within my own experience, I have found them to be incredibly effective. The difference between amethyst and citrine is simply a pigment change that happens under temperature. And so when you heat amethyst, it essentially becomes citrine. Now, of course, that goes through a man-made process. You are forcing that change. And yet, ultimately, it still works successfully for so many people. I still use heat-treated amethyst within my prosperity workings, within my happiness and my abundance workings, and I have great success with it. I often use opalite in workings for transformation, because for me, the symbolism of opalite is being able to transform something into something else. That silica becomes the opalite in its beautiful opalescent form. And so I find it quite strange when people will actually attack other members of the witchcraft community for simply using man-made items. Using plastic is a choice. Not everyone is going to make that choice. I personally try to avoid plastic within my magical practice as much as I can. And yet for some workings, plastic could be really useful. A lot of people will say that you shouldn't use plastic because it's really bad at being able to transfer energy. But in some cases, that might actually be what you want. If you want something to sit and stagnate, what better than to put it in a plastic bottle? You are allowing that plastic drinking bottle to have a secondary life within your magical practice, so it's not just being thrown in the bin or sent straight to recycling. You're instead using it for something practical within your own life, which in my opinion is a really good thing. If we have plastic around us and we have a way of reusing it multiple times within our own lives before it gets recycled, that then allows us to make the most out of the damaging material that we have. So I think that using plastic and fake crystals can actually be a good thing. And ultimately, a lot of people, especially if they're on a budget, have an easier time affording opalite and heat-treated amethyst than they do affording actual opal and actual natural citrine, which can be exceptionally expensive. I think it's all about using what we have access to and also using what you feel comfortable with. Try sensing the energy of natural citrine versus heat-treated amethyst. What are the differences to you? Do they feel different? Do they feel the same? Try using both of them if you can within your practice and see what feels right to you. If you have a working that could benefit from using plastic in some way and you have it around that you're able to reuse in your own life, then give it a go. The worst thing that happens is that your working doesn't manifest in the way that you want, and then you put that bottle into recycling. But at best, you could be using plastic that you already have around that doesn't have anything else that it can do within your life. You can use it a few more times before you send it to recycling, ultimately extending the time that you have the chance to use it. I think ultimately people are very judgmental online, and I think that it would better everyone as a community if we were maybe slightly less so, especially when it comes to things that are more budget-friendly options. The next unpopular opinion is one that I actually think a lot of you will agree with. It says, you are not obligated to work with your ancestors if your ancestors would despise you for doing what you're doing. Over the last few years, especially on social media, of course, we've been seeing a real push for everyone to start working with their ancestors. But the thing that I think we all should remember is that one path isn't going to suit everyone. For some people, working with their ancestors might be incredibly beneficial. They might know past relatives that have passed over. They might also have a deep connection with their ancestors that came before, or the unknown dead that came even before that. For them, working with ancestors might be a very empowering thing that might benefit their practice. But for other people, it might not. There are many people who don't know their ancestors directly. They don't know where they came from, where their family was from. They don't know enough about them to be able to deeply connect with their close relatives, and maybe even their distant relatives as well. There are other people who are maybe in families or part of lineages that have an active distaste for witchcraft. Maybe they would hate to work with you, and in which case, why would you choose to work with someone that actively despises what you do? I sure as hell know I wouldn't. I think it's really important here, as I mentioned, to just realize that not every path is suitable for everyone. I work with some of my ancestors. I certainly don't work with all of them because a lot of them wouldn't like what I'm doing. Those that I do work with are aware of what I'm doing and are comfortable assisting me in my workings. Other people aren't as fortunate as that. For them, their ancestors might be very intolerant of what they're doing, and not only might they be really intolerant, they might actively sabotage or actively cause harm to you, the people around you, or your environment because of what you're doing. Ultimately, the choice of whether you work with your ancestors is down to you, and you shouldn't feel pressured to or not to do it. If you want to give it a go, you definitely can. There's lots of ways you can do that. If you want to work with the ancestors that you know of, you can connect with them by using photos or items that they might have owned, things that represent them. You can create an altar for them. These are known as your known ancestors, the people that you know of by name or at least by face. These are the people you recognize. Not everyone knows their ancestors, not in this level, whether that's because you're adopted and you don't know where your family originally came from, whether it's because you don't have communication with your family. There's so many different reasons. You can also connect with what's known as the unknown dead. These are the people within your ancestry whose names have been lost over time. Maybe they are several hundred years in the past, and so no one has any memory of them, but you know that they must exist. These are the ancestors that you can connect with associated items. Often people will use skulls to represent the unknown dead, but if you do know where your family was vaguely from, you're able to use items, food, and drink that they may well have had access to or may appreciate if they were to live today. There's many ways that you can work with this. You can connect with them through dreams, through meditation. You can simply leave out offerings and an altar so that they can work with you and connect with you when you need to or when they want to. Often people will leave out offerings on a set day every single week if they do want to build a much deeper connection with their ancestors. But as always, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, you don't need to. There are lots of other things that you can work with if ancestors aren't for you. You can work with fairies, with caution. You can work with other spirits who've passed over. You can work with elementals. If you feel brave enough, you can work with demons if you like. A lot of them don't deserve the reputation that they've been given. They can be incredibly useful to work with. So if you don't want to work with ancestors, but you do want to work with spirits, there are a lot of other options out there. The next unpopular opinion is a really brief one. It says, if you ask for a deep cleanse, expect to lose people in the process. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it can look like the darkest time of your life until you get to your destination. This is so true. A lot of people will come into witchcraft and they will think that they will get lots of benefits with no negatives. But the reality is, that's not always how it works. Often when we need big change, we're going to see big change, and that big change might not always be positive. Sometimes it can feel like a real negative. If the goal that you're working towards with witchcraft is something that you currently can't access because of people, because of places, because of objects, expect them to be pushed out of the way. Sometimes when you ask for something like a new job or more money or a new romantic partner, you are going to lose things in the process. These things are meant to be lost. They are what is holding you back from your potential future. But the problem is that during that process, it can feel absolutely brutal. You can feel like your entire world is being turned inside out and upside down. You might lose your closest friends, your job, your house. Anything could come topsy-turvy when it comes to getting what you want, especially if you want it bad enough. Because these things are often what is holding you back from getting what you want. If you plan on working with magic, if you plan on using that energy, expect the results to not always be as expected. That doesn't mean that your working has backfired. Sometimes it's worked incredibly well. These are things that you need to let go of in order to progress forwards. And I think a lot of people, especially those who are just getting started in witchcraft, can often think that it is smooth sailing. But in reality, it doesn't always feel like that. So if you are looking for a cleanse, a fresh start, a new job, new beginnings, do expect that your life might be tipped upside down and inside out, because that tends to happen more often than not. And it isn't something to be afraid of. It can be very scary. Change is incredibly scary. But in the end, these things will allow you to line everything up so that you can better progress towards your end goals. The next unpopular opinion is one that I suspect will probably be quite popular with my regular followers. This one reads, "Practicing darker magic doesn't make you evil. Life's a balance, and it can't be good all of the time. Same with witchcraft. Social media comes down on people so hard for simply asking questions about darker magic instead of educating. Not everyone believes in the rule of 3. As you may well have guessed, I definitely agree with this opinion, and I think it's largely because my practice is rooted in folk magic, and especially when it comes to traditional British witchcraft, we do see that the practitioners throughout centuries of time have both been cursing and curing. The magical practice was twofold. A lot of people will throw around phrases like karma, the threefold law, equal returns, and the reality is that not all of these beliefs are held by everyone. Not every tradition even has an idea of equal return, and I think it's really strange when people will push that on everyone regardless of their magical tradition. I think it's really important to note here, though, that it's all about what you feel comfortable doing. Everyone is going to have different ethics, everyone is going to have different morals and different desires with what they want their magical practice to be. If you feel really comfortable with the positive intention workings and they are working really well for you, then stick with it. If it works for you and it's what you want to do, then do it. I think the main problem lies in the fact that especially social media, as usual, tends to come down really hard on people for just asking innocent questions. There's a big difference between asking a question about a subject and actually undertaking it. They're two very different things. And especially when beginners ask an innocent question purely out of curiosity, they have a tendency to get pushed to the sidelines really quickly, and that's on a good day. If you hit a bad day, you might get a whole bunch of people sending you hate for just asking a question. And I don't think that's fair. Throughout history, witchcraft has been twofold, especially in the British Isles, and I've also seen it documented in Western Europe as well, and probably much further afield, way outside of my field of reference. Witchcraft and magical tradition is used to help people in many different ways. If you can find a solution that allows you to just do positive workings, then that is a great option. But if you run out of options, doing some negative magic is an option if you do feel comfortable with it. And remember, it's all going to be based on your own personal morals, ethics, belief system, and tradition. Everyone is going to be different, and ultimately it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to do it. Ultimately, no one should be attacked for simply asking a question on negative magic out of curiosity. And often asking questions on more negative forms of magic better allows us to understand how to protect ourselves against it, as well as understanding whether or not it's something we do or don't want to practice. Sometimes when people are pushed away from something hard enough, it only makes them more curious. So really, we should be open to having conversations about negative magic, as it's going to dissuade people who are maybe on the fence, or it's going to educate people on how to do it safely. Otherwise, you get people just going rogue and often getting themselves and other people into trouble because something goes wrong in their working and no one is out there who is willing to talk about it so that they can try and fix it. The next unpopular opinion is actually a really short one. This one says, "My unpopular opinion is that Wicca is actually a very good place to start off when starting to learn about witchcraft." Now, some of you are probably going to agree with this, some of you probably not. I personally don't agree with this, but I will elaborate on that a little bit more. A little bit of background on me. When I started practicing witchcraft, I had no formal training. I had no idea what I was even doing. I studied based on trial and error. I tried something, it failed. I tried something else, it worked. That's how I developed my magical practice. Then I found out about Wicca. I had no idea that witchcraft was separate. I thought that Wicca was the be-all and end-all of everything. And so I spent 8 years studying within Wicca, practicing as a Wiccan witch. And there was a period of time, maybe for several years, where I considered joining an initiatory British coven. But ultimately, I didn't do it, and I'm very glad that I didn't, because Wicca simply wasn't for me. Wicca can be an amazing religion to be a part of. It can be an amazing tradition to join if it's something that you're really interested in. Many people really enjoy the coven-style environment of initiatory covens. They enjoy working with other people, going to Esbat and Sabbath celebrations. Other people really enjoy the nature worship and the dualistic aspect of deities. But for me, it wasn't for me. And myself, along with many other ex-Wiccans, have gone on to practice other things within witchcraft. Here is where the problem lies. What you learn first is often what you learn best, and ultimately it can be really difficult to shake the Wiccan teachings once you've studied it, especially if you've practiced it for a long time, and especially if that was the first thing that you learned. I'm very grateful that I was already practicing witchcraft in my own strange concoction of a way before I joined Wicca. But ultimately, when I left Wicca, it had definitely altered my perception of witchcraft. It had changed the way I do things. And I spent so many years continuing to do Wiccan ceremonial circle castings, even though I didn't resonate with it, because it just felt comfortable to me. It's what I'd learned, and that's really hard to unlearn. And so ultimately, that's the problem. It can be very difficult to shake the teachings of Wicca if it's what you've learned first, which is why time and time and time again we see books written about traditional witchcraft, except they contain so much Wiccan information that you get confused. And then you realise that the author is actually ex-Wiccan, and that's why. You'll often see this in books that are written about traditional witchcraft. The front page may well be a copy of the Wiccan Read, and you have to take a step back and go, hang on a minute, that's not traditional witchcraft. And then you realise the influence of Wicca has spread so far, it's appearing in everything. So Wicca itself is an amazing springboard. It can really help you develop your skills, develop a community. It can really help grow your spirituality and your spiritual comfort levels. But if Wicca isn't for you and you decide to change into something else, you'll often have a hard time shaking the teachings. That can apply to anything, by the way. Anything that you learn the first time is harder to relearn again a different way. It's just that because Wicca is so easily accessible now, most people get into Wicca first, and so you'll often find that it's the Wiccan teachings that are the hardest to shake. So once again, no hatred, no shame towards Wicca and those who follow the tradition. It is fantastic if that's what you feel drawn to. But if not, it can be a little bit annoying to find it in basically every book about witchcraft ever. It can get really frustrating. The last unpopular opinion of today's episode, because otherwise we could be here for hours, and honestly, if you leave me talking, you've seen my live streams. We could be here for hours. This unpopular opinion goes as follows. Love spells are highly misunderstood. Any other spell you do requires mundane work, but for some reason other witches think that love can be made instantly and that love spells take away free will. No one is complaining that job spells take away the free will of the employers. This is so unbelievably true. I see this so often and it completely drives me up the wall because it's almost like one rule for one rule for another. Witchcraft isn't a fix-all. It's not going to solve all of your problems with no effort. If you want a new job but haven't applied anywhere for a new job, you're not going to find a new job because you're not out there looking for one. You can do all of the magical work, but if you can't be bothered to get off the sofa to actually go and look for a new job, you're just waiting for one to land in your lap. It's never going to happen. But somehow with love spells, it's seen as being a very different thing. Now, I think the really important thing to note here is that the term love spell is an umbrella term, just like how prosperity or protection is an umbrella term. If you're looking at protection, that could mean protection of yourself, protection of your finances, protection of your family. It could be protection via traveling, protection of pets. It could be workings that help repel things, or it could be workings to help shield things. There's so many different forms of protection magic, just like there's so many versions of love magic. Love magic isn't just dominating over someone else's free will. There's lots of options in there. You have self-love, platonic love, the amplification of love between two people that are working together in a working. That is another form of love. You also have the idea of attraction, so attracting the ideal partner into your life. You aren't forcing situations to happen. You're simply stating that you are wanting to find the ideal person and you're open to interacting with them. This will then attract people into your life. Whatever comes after that is entirely organic. People will often jump down everyone else's throats when it comes to love magic, but they don't do the same with other forms of magic. A good example for this is a job spell, as was mentioned here. You are going for a job interview and you're against 5 different candidates. Some of these candidates might be better suited for the job than you are, so you're worried that you're not going to get the job. You do several workings, do some spells, do some rituals, petition some deities, work with some spirits. You do everything you can magically so that you can help your chances with this job. You do the mundane work as well, but ultimately, you're still only on an equal playing field with these other people who are also applying for the job. But the magical workings that you've done have pushed you forwards so that you're more likely to get the job. Maybe they made you more memorable. Maybe they made everyone else stumble in the interviews. Maybe someone lost their car keys so they couldn't make it to the interview. Ultimately, you've pushed yourself ahead of everyone else and you've got that job. Congratulations, you got what you wanted. But what about those other applicants? Maybe one person needed that job to pay for their family. Maybe another person is about to lose their home if they don't have access to this job. Maybe this was someone's dream job and they've worked for it forever and you've pulled the rug out from underneath them that's meant that they don't have that job. Why is it that no one talks about the negatives and the potential harm of other spells, but the minute someone utters the word love spell on the internet, people freak out? Ultimately, all forms of magical practice have the ability to alter someone else's free will, and that's why it's really important to think long and hard before every working that you do. Make sure that it's not only what you want, but also has the limited amount of chance to hinder someone else. This is why it's much easier to work on a situation than it is a person. In this instance, if we're talking about a job spell, if you'd have solely worked on yourself, improving yourself, raising yourself up, making yourself more memorable, then all of these people could have also been in with a chance. It's just that they then had to be just as memorable or more memorable than you were. But if you've got a servitor involved who's going to mess with the other people's lives in order to benefit you, someone might lose their car keys, someone might lock themselves out of their house, and so ultimately they can't turn up to the interview. In the end, the working gave you the same result. It's just in one instance the people are being more directly affected than in others. The same applies with love spells. If you're targeting a specific person, you still need to be putting in the hard work to attract them, but there also has to be something there to go off. You can apply for a job, but if you are completely unqualified for it, even with all the workings under the sun, you still might not get it. The same with a love spell. You can target a set person, but if they are not interested in you in any way, shape, or form, that working likely isn't going to manifest in the way that you want. But equally, there's lots of ways of doing love spells that aren't going to directly impact anyone else. And so I think the uttering of the phrase love spell is kind of taken out of context. It's taken to the extreme when it really shouldn't be. There definitely seems to be a one rule for all other forms of working and another rule for love spells that we really need to talk about. So let's talk about it. What are your opinions on these different unpopular opinions? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Let's have some open conversation in the comment section. If you would like to put your own unpopular witchcraft opinions, please feel free to put them down there as well, and I may well do another video like this in the future if you would like to talk more about unpopular witchcraft opinions. Now, I know that I did not get round to even a fraction of the comments on the last few videos, so if I do another video like this in the future, I will likely draw on comments from all 3 videos so that the people who've missed out on getting their comment included can have a chance of doing that as well. I hope that you did enjoy this video. I know that unpopular opinions are surprisingly popular to watch. I think it's being able to have a conversation about it that people are so interested in, or maybe that's just me. Regardless, if you did like this video, feel free to give it a like. It really means so much to me. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, video ideas, or just want to chit chat with the community, feel free to put it down in the comment section. If you do like talking about unpopular opinions or just want to talk about witchcraft a little bit more, I do have a Discord server. The link is in the description box of all of my videos. And I want to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. You let me do videos like this. You let me do the things that I really enjoy, and I thoroughly appreciate it. So your names will be on the end screen in just a moment. With that being said, I hope you have a marvelous magical day. I hope you're all staying safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! I really enjoy filming these unpopular witchcraft opinion videos because I find that the online witchcraft community can have a tendency to become, a bit of a, is a little bit of a long sentence. Shorten. use fewer words. This is the problem in half of my videos. There is now a car alarm going off. Yeah, that could be going off for a while. I'm not even sure if my microphone is picking it up. I'm really hoping that if I just keep talking, you are not going to be able to hear it, because it stopped. Okay, never mind, it's fine. Everything is fine. Let's just keep going while it's gone. Hello. Is my microphone working? Yes, it is. I accidentally forgot to restart the video again, so I hope I didn't miss anything. I don't think I did. I'm pretty certain that I just forgot to click play again once I started and stopped the video. That doesn't make any sense if you don't have my camera, but anyway, regardless, at 25 minutes, my camera automatically shuts off, and I think I forgot to restart it again, so let's hope I didn't lose anything. Whew. I've already been filming for 40 minutes. I need a drink. Of water. I know what some of you are thinking. I'm not going to have some hard liquor after this. I'm going to have some water. Because today has been a hot one. It has been 22 degrees today in England. That is scorching. It's not really been scorching, but it's been hot, and I've been wearing big boots and a leather jacket. So like, scorching for me. And also I dress in all black. So like the summer, I love it, but it was not built for me. I just don't think it was built for me. Today's look shall be named Elven Princess, because I feel like an elf, and I don't know, I kind of like the fact that you can see the tips of my ears. I'm not sure if I love it, I'm not sure if I hate it, but honestly, for the duration of this video, we are just gonna have to deal with it, because it is currently, as I am recording this, 10:49 p.m. on Tuesday. So I have to get this filmed, edited, uploaded by, you guessed it, Wednesday. So let's see if we can get this done. I should know by now, I can talk for England. I should not have saved like 12 unpopular opinions. I'm pretty sure that I'm only 5 in, and I've already been speaking for an hour. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, so I will probably have to make another one, because I can't get through these fast enough, and I don't want it to be like an hour-long video for you, because most people are not going to sit through an hour of me talking. I know it can get very annoying. So I'm going to have to cut it off at some point, but there's so many good ones. So I'm sorry if I've missed your comment. Hopefully I'll be able to add it into another video in the future. Maybe. That's if you still even like these videos. I really like these videos. I like unpopular opinion videos, but maybe you don't. Maybe I'm just behind on the times. Who knows? Actually, I do know. I am behind on the times. I only just joined TikTok, for goodness sake. TikTok has been out for years, and I literally joined it last week. So, yeah, I'm very behind on the times. So you'll have to let me know if you actually like this style of content.